grandmother named Grandma Golden. Grandma Golden is one of those grandmas that just come here, baby, and just kind of hug. Anybody know any Grandma Goldens? They just know how to love on you. They know how to say the right thing, and they just know how to make you feel better. My father said he fell in love with Grandma Golden, and then one day he saw a picture in the front room, and he decided to draw it, but he didn't really draw it. He did what some of us do, you know. He took a piece of paper that you can see through, and what did he do? He traced it, and he began to trace it. He tells me this story. I'm listening to him, and he's really going into detail, and my father says, I began to trace this picture. It was a picture of like a jockey or something like that. He said, when I was done, I took it to Grandma Golden. I said, Grandma Golden, look at what I did. Grandma Golden looked at the picture. She said, you did this? She said, yes. She said, you drew this? Yeah. That was his opportunity, am I right? But he said, yeah. The look on her face, the smile that she had, he couldn't say what really. He just said, yeah, I drew it. She said, you drew it? Mom, come here, baby. That's my baby. And she hugged him, and she was so proud of him. But then a couple days went by, and some of her friends were over. I'm still listening to my dad tell me this story. He said the friends came up. She said, my grandson from Chicago is here, and look at what he drew. She said, go, he drew that picture. He said he drew it. Leslie, come here. Tell them that you drew this picture. Yeah. She said, I'm going to show you. I want you to draw it again. And my dad, no big deal. I'm going to take it in the front room and do what I do. She said, here. And she gave him a paper, and it was something kind of like construction paper. My dad didn't think about it at first, and he went in the front room. He said, oh boy, how am I going to get this picture to show up? I'm almost done with this story. Listen, he takes the paper and puts it down, and he can't see through. Someone said he can't see through. So he's thinking, well, do I come clean? What do I do? He starts to get nervous, and then something says to him inside, give it a try. When I tell the story, there are times I can get through it successfully without too much emotion. It's kind of hard, but I want to tell you what happened. My daddy said, son, I took that pencil and I put it to that paper, and I looked at the picture and I drew a line real slow. I took my time. I erased a lot, but I looked and I drew, and I looked and I drew, and I looked and I drew, and I kept on doing it, and I erased when I needed to, but I kept on. And when I was done, I surprised myself. Now, it wasn't as good as the way but it was better than I had anticipated. It was actually pretty good. He said, I went in there and I said, Grandma Golden, look at what I did. She looked at the picture, she looked at me, she looked at the picture, looked at me, and hugged me tight. She never told me if she knew I had traced the first. It never came up, but she hugged me tight, and she looked me in the eyes, and she smiled, and then she turned to her friend. See, I told you my baby can draw. I tell that story today because of this. This is your graduation, and I want you to take this with you. You will never know what's inside of you and what you are capable of until you allow yourself to be put to the test. Are y'all with me today? Don't be scared to be challenged. Don't be scared to take a test. Don't be scared to step in there and maybe not get it the way you wanted to get it, but go for it, or you'll never know who you are. Are you ready to take off? I'm almost done. I have another story I want to tell you, and this one is about myself.